to Upstage Downstage with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing The Woman in Black. We saw this production at Theatre Royal Nottingham on the 2nd of December 2023. The Woman in Black is based on the 1983 book by English author Susan Hill and adapted by Stephen Mallatrat for the stage in 1987. The play is currently being produced by PW Productions, led by Peter Wilson. It was first premiered as a ghost story at the Stephen Joseph Theatre, Scarborough in 1987, before transferring to the London's West End in 1989, and was performed there until 4th of March 2023, becoming the second longest running non-musical play in West End history after The Mousetrap. So Richard, what's it all about?
A lawyer obsessed with a curse that he believes has been cast over him and his family by the spectre of a woman in black engages a sceptical young actor to help him tell his terrifying story and exorcise the fear that grips his soul. It all begins innocently enough, but then as they reach further into his darkest memories, they find themselves caught up in a world of eerie marshes and moaning winds.
But first, our post-show opinion!
I think I jumped once.
Well, I mean... yeah. No. So with all that said, let's set the scene. Okay then, Richard. Into the auditorium we go. Let's set this scene for The Woman in Black.
Well, it was a vision in Hessian.
Oh, it was, wasn't it?
It was.
And that came out quite quick.
It did, didn't it?
Were you thinking of that, for a
Well,
while?
normally I'd use the word auditorium, but this time I thought vision in
I
Hessian.
snatched that from you first, so yes.
We're playing Snatch Game.
Very similar to The Wicked Lady, but this one came first,
Indeed,
we must say. So,
yeah.
Would you like to set the scene? You've got
Yeah, I suppose really it was to depict an empty room, a disused space, maybe a studio or a rehearsal space. It was really just to look like a stage when it's not being used. That was probably the way this was meant to be. That's the easiest way to describe it, really. There was just simple furniture on stage, a chair and a clothes rail. There was nothing.
And they were to the stage left?
Yeah. Well, there's
Am I thinking it right?
No, stage right was the clothes rail, and then
the door,
and then in the sort of centre stage was a chair and a table, a little small table.
That's right, and also a chest of a box.
Yeah, it was like a box file, or it was. No, it was a big chest, wasn't it?
That's
chest.
the word. Yeah,
yeah,
chest.
like a stage costume chest or something that they've put all the things in, prop box or whatever. But it was a big old wooden rope handled box that was just to show it was one of those ones they chuck around the back side of the stage and things.
And Hessian drapes at the back.
Yeah, and there was also a Hessian tab in front of the main Hessian drape at the back, so it was just an entrance on stage and then a door off to stage right that just went off to the side, really.
But was that not covered by Hessian to begin with?
Stage left it was.
On stage left,
the one on stage right was
because that was into the office.
Visible. Yeah, so that was
because they hadn't transferred over to the house.
No, they hadn't. That was the second half.
Yeah,
well, towards the second half.
So there we are. We've set the scene.
There we are.
I'm surprised our listening viewer can actually understand what we're talking about when we describe the sets, because
I think we've painted a decent picture.
No, I
mean, for those that want to see the actual set, it will be put on social media. It'll be on our Instagram page.
Well, one can hope. So the very first scene, we have Arthur Kipps on stage trying to read a story.
Yes.
And the actor is listening patiently.
Yes, Arthur Kipps is trying to tell his story that he's written down, isn't he?
Yes. And to get some advice from the actor, and then the actor then takes over a little and starts reading.
Yeah.
it himself, putting in a little bit more action.
And it's very obvious that Arthur he's struggling to read the story as well. He can't actually say what's happening. He's really struggling with actually talking about the truth of behind the story almost.
Well, it was a bit frightening for him, wasn't it? And so...
Trigger him.
Yeah, so as they progress, the actor explores more of the world and opens up the storytelling into a more visually compelling piece of theatre, using the props and then going in and out of the actual story, portraying different characters and getting Arthur Kipps to engage and train him to act out the pieces as well.
Yeah,
so
what we start with is almost a very bare stage production, using the props on stage as pieces of location pieces almost to help tell that story.
Were you familiar with this
No,
production?
Never seen it. I know I've heard about it, and my mum's seen it, and a few other people I know have seen it, but I've purposely kept away from things like the film and things like that because I actually want to see the stage version before I watched any other version of it. Because there used to be quite a big hype about this production for a long time,
really,
in the past, and I remember my mum saying she didn't want to see it again and stuff like that, and so it built my hopes up a lot because of what other people had told me. So I didn't really know.
Well, what did they say?
Well, they were just saying that. Well, they didn't really tell me what had happened in it, but they just said they didn't want to see it again. And
Can you understand why they don't want to see it again?
Because it was scary more than anything. I think they gave me the illusion that it was something that they didn't want to actually sit and watch again because it unnerved them. So that builds your hopes up to watch something, to see something that's going to be unnerving and scary maybe.
Okay.
And that's why I didn't want to watch the TV version or the film, because I didn't really want to...
Is that the one with Harry Potter in it?
Yeah, it's the one with Daniel Radcliffe, but I didn't really want to see that before I saw the stage version, so I purposely held back.
Well, in film and TV, they can do so much more than theatre.
Yeah, they can.
Well,
and I just think it would... I got a feeling that, a bit like The Mousetrap, it would have been a storyline that even if I'd have seen it, I felt like it would have sport watching it at the theatre, because the storyline must be pretty straightforward. That once you've seen it, you've seen it.
Yes.
That's what this
that's
production.
That's how I felt after.
Led me to believe, really. Yeah.
Okay. What did you feel about the writing and how that was? In terms of the story structure of this one.
I think you had to pay attention to what was going off, because you could have got lost in what's actually happening. The jump between the actor and Arthur, and I think that
it was very much a slow build in terms of getting you introduced to these characters, and also seeing them integrate within the story, portray the story, and then going back to why they're there to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that for me, the bit that made me jump was when Arthur was when the actor arrived and he just appeared out of nowhere from the side of stage. That sort of caught
that
me.
Made you jump?
That was probably the only bit that made me jump.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just because I didn't really notice he was there, and I was closer to where he appeared than maybe you were. I was right next to it.
I saw him walk in,
Yeah, I didn't even see him walk in because I was just past that door, so I didn't actually see him appear. So,
No, okay.
For me, I've missed that bit.
I'll let you off on that one.
However...
there's a however.
I do think it was... If you've seen productions and things where cast played many different characters, I do think there was a lot of good separation from characterization and jumping in and out of different characters. I did kind of like that, where Arthur became so many other people. That worked well.
I think for me, this is very reminiscent of The Verdict, which we saw last year, where the first act was very much a build-up and talking and explaining to the audience.
Yeah, setting the scene.
But more than setting the scene, it's building those building blocks for you to be, I suppose, entertained and thrilled and needing and desperate for the second act to be a payoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I felt this, it worked for this, because as it's supposed to be a spooky thing, it didn't really get spooky until the very end of Act 1, which is very similar to The Wicked Lady. Now, The Wicked Lady is very much this.
Yes.
I dare say there's some sort of like plagiarism going on as well. There must
Yeah,
be, because
it was
viewing,
too close.
Well, viewing that first and then seeing this and knowing that this came before that,
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't enjoy this, because all I kept thinking was Wicked Lady and
It
how
felt
bad
like the
that
same
was.
plot points and the same movement in what
Oh,
was
absolutely,
happening.
and even down to the set and it being Hessian things
Yeah.
were being covered. I mean, this was professionally done in terms of how it executed the spooky things.
Yeah, exactly. And this has been
and
established
what
for
it
a long
needed,
time.
Yeah, and what it needed to do and why it needed
Yeah,
to
exactly.
do. Whereas the Wicked Lady, which if every year listen to that episode, we pretty much tear it to shreds. However, it felt like they were just using Hessian things just to cover things without it being a thought of why it was needed in the first place.
And also to be the cover version of Woman in Black, really, because I think that was everything about that production felt the same. I was triggered when you're watching this, thinking
that was an updated version of this.
Yes, it was,
because they had the laptops.
but
and
it's
stuff.
but it's very, very
Even down before you
Yeah.
go on, even down to the travel, because in The Woman in Black, the guy travelled on the train.
Yes.
And you had the movements,
Yeah.
and you had him
Yeah.
moving from chair to
Yeah,
chair,
exactly.
swapping the suitcase around,
exactly
and
that.
their bodies moved because
Yeah,
of the chuntering of
exactly
the train.
that.
Whereas in, like I said, in the Wicked Lady one, she was sat on the tube and she didn't sway, she didn't move at
No,
all. So
no,
even though there
exactly.
was a train journey, that could have not happened at all, because there was nothing.
But
that
it was
didn't bring
like
anything to it.
let's just loosely rewrite something to still have the similar plot points and movement and travel and just create something that wasn't original. And I don't know how actually Wicked Lady got past. I don't know if anybody saw it that actually would have seen Woman in Black, but I would have been a bit annoyed if I'd have created Woman in Black and seen their version and think it's not.
Well,
very...
now it's getting to the point where when I do speak about this production, I can't remember which title I'm referring
Yeah,
to
of course,
half the time. Sometimes it just comes out the Wicked Woman
Yeah,
or the Wicked Black Lady or something. All these words are like all merged around.
yeah, exactly.
And I can't think which one was which.
No,
I mean, this one was far better produced. And I suppose the best thing about this, the writing is a bit slow build and a bit antiquated now, I suppose, because obviously you're watching a play written in the 80s.
yeah, exactly.
Basically. However, the acting and the lighting and the sound was just brilliant.
Yeah, it was.
It was top notch.
Yeah.
Everything was executed.
The quality was
wonderfully.
there.
Yeah, and I think even especially the direction, to have so little to use at your disposal, you use a lot.
Yeah, and through being a
In terms of,
two-hander
like, the
production as well.
Props. Exactly.
Really,
They kept the attention.
Yeah, I mean,
Whereas the other actors in The Wicked Lady are just nodding off. There was no chemistry there.
you wanted to leave in like halfway through the first
My
half.
God,
Let's
did I
face
want
it.
to leave?
At least you stayed till the end for Woman in Black. Let's face it.
Oh well, yes, of course, yes.
But I think Malcolm James and Mark Hawkins were captivating when you were watching them. Their stage presence was brilliant. The things that they
and also they we're going on to the acting here. So we'll leave that for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's just rein it back into the writing and the directing. It was directed by Robin Herford. So all credit to the director.
Yeah, totally.
For doing that.
Because it was authentic. It felt of its time. It felt directed in the right period, and it felt like the right ghost story for the period it was made for. It didn't feel like there was no hint of the 80s, or you wouldn't have known that it was written in the 80s.
No,
in a way.
absolutely. And I think also not being afraid to use the silences and take a break and take the time just to explore mannerisms.
Yeah, of course.
Which does go into the whole acting thing conversation that we will probably pick up a bit later if we remember. There's a little section that I really liked in terms of within the direction, which was when they had to improvise that they had a little dog.
Yeah.
And you couldn't see the dog.
No.
But all those little details of...
You could see the dog running around on stage.
You could, even though there wasn't one. You know, you visually, in your mind's eye, saw that dog with how they were reacting to it. You know, patting it, rubbing it on his belly, chasing it around, or taking it to walk, or carrying it, or all those little things.
Yeah.
It's very easy just to not bother and just assume that the dog's there and just make no effort to integrate it within the storyline.
Yeah.
But they did, and they did it successfully to make this invisible creature.
As they did with I suppose not just the creature, the places they travelled. You felt like they moved to a different place when they got on a train. You felt like they were travelling on a train. When they were on a horse and carriage, you felt like they were on a horse and carriage. Even though it was just done with a chair or a box or a this or that. It was all done, you know, when they moved to different places, you know, it felt like you went there. It didn't feel like you were still on stage in the first place, you know. And I think
I think that's having the confidence and the know-how to use all your props properly.
Yeah.
And the set pieces there.
They took direction well. I think that's what we're probably trying to, you know, they've probably been...
Yeah, they did. And I think to have a kind of director that, I don't know whether to say enjoys using props.
Yeah.
But there's a way of making the props work for you than just ignoring them or not having them at all.
There's a couple of things here. There's relying on props to do the job for you.
Yeah.
Or actually using the props to create the space. And I think and also using props to become something else and move and travel and move that, you know, rather than going, well, I need a steering wheel to steer a car. It's like, no, but there's this plate here, or, you know, I'm not saying they had a plate, but I'm just saying it's using what's around you to create production and movement and tell the story with everyday items that aren't meant for the purpose, you know. And I think that's the difference between almost demanding we need all the props to give us the things that we need to tell the story when you don't, if you're captivating enough to do it.
And I think it also works, and you can see the roots of this by it being a ghost story.
Yeah.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
In Scarborough, because they would have perhaps had all their props and everything either on them or within that chest to begin with.
Yeah. And so I'd love to have seen it in the Stephen Joseph Theatre.
Yeah, so you can see how this is expanded only like a fraction with all the tricks and tools to make it a chilling theatrical production. But you can still see that it stems back from that first ghost telling story by just having all the props within the one basket.
Yeah,
as well,
definitely.
You know?
It was almost like I felt like we were watching the Fireside ghost story where we're in a forest somewhere with a fire and it's a little bit unnerving and you're just being told this story. And I think that's what it evoked really when you're watching it. Building the picture up, and you're having to fill the gaps in, and you know, made your mind fill the gaps in as well.
And then when it got to Act 2, it started picking up a great deal in terms of the action, with the playing with the sound and the lights, and they had the use of the candles, and that being able to be blown out whenever it needed to, going behind the gorge. Gorge? Where are we? In the gorge?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
The gauze, I meant.
Gauze, yeah.
But it's more the Hessian.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Because they were depicting a Victorian Gothic sort of kid's nursery bedroom with a rocking chair and the dolls. And all that kind of thing plays with your mind anyway, because they all look spooky and ridiculous.
Yeah.
But because they were behind this screen, it kept it at a distance.
And this is where the line was blurred, wasn't it, really? In the sense of from telling the tale with not physical, with props that aren't what they're meant to be. You actually start seeing glimpses of the real things.
Yes.
Rather than so like the door appearing and things like that. That it's like for me, we talk about Chocolate Box and the set, and it's like you've took one layer off, and the next layer is something completely different. And it was like we're starting to do that a little bit in the second half, because that's what the Hessian's there for, really, to hide that.
Yeah, and also they had the staircase even behind that as well, so it was like a third layer.
Yes.
Of the action being screened out. So they worked a lot with the shadows and the lighting to get that dark figure going up and down the steps.
Yes, and not
right
just
at the back.
and not just that, they used a lot of like candlelight or one source of light on stage to actually cast those shadows with the physical form. So it created it was the unnerving sort of moments, really.
What, is there anything else you want to say about the writing and the directing before we move on?
I suppose, do we need to talk about if we think that the writing stood up to the test of time?
Okay,
maybe?
That's a good one. I think it's now a period piece, isn't it?
Yes, it feels that.
But, however, it's a period piece that was written in the 80s. However, it harks back to an even earlier time.
Well, it's pre-technology. It's pre,
it's a different era within itself, even when it was written. So, do I then kind of think, is that why Wicked Lady was written to be the modern version of that old story?
Yeah.
But it just wasn't executed well.
No, it wasn't.
And then thinking of this, do I believe this could be updated? Yes. However, will it lose something in terms of the scariness about it? Because our day and age, we've watched, Most Haunted. We like the spooky things. We've seen a lot of stuff. There's not something that this generation now hasn't seen or isn't spooked by. If anything, we're going to get spooked by like Dr. Pimple Popper, coming at us, or things that are just,
Whereas the old traditional jump scare ghost story doesn't necessarily cut it as much now.
No, not when we're seeing like Saw and we're seeing Scary Movie and we're seeing Halloween and
I suppose we're exposed to much more graphic things than
graphic content
than just something making you jump or something moving that's like a theatre stage trick. So it's like.
Well, say like when I was young and I went to Alton Towers and I went to the, I think it was 92, 94, the Haunted House. That was quite scary as a child. But then you go back again and you can just walk around that place. The floor's a bit uneven, the thing's rocking.
Somebody might jump out on you.
Yeah, and now it's like, it doesn't faze you now because you've seen it, you know about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they've even put guns in the haunted house, just so you can shoot things, because it's not scary anymore and you need something to do, otherwise you're just going around this track,
exactly.
Being a bit bored and not really scared by it. And I think this particular story, theatrical thing, yes, it's been going a long time, but for a modern audience, I don't think it's as scary as what it would have been. So probably an update, how you can do that. Oh, I know what we talked about in the car. The ocean at the end of the bus lane.
Yeah, the end of the
right.
lane.
Yeah. When she was going in and out of the
through
doors,
the doors and in the dark.
That was very quick-witted.
Yeah.
Not quick-witted. It was very quick-paced.
Yeah, it was.
There was sound lighting going all over the place. It kept you on edge.
It kept you
shocked.
unnerved because you didn't know
what was going on.
No.
I think the tricks are still there within the theatre world. It's just, how do you make it, or that story, come alive or creep you out in a different way?
And I think that's the difference when something becomes predictable. Even in the first half, you're almost told what you're going to be seeing in the second, even though you've not seen it yet. You're led to believe that this woman in black is going to walk past or be in the house that they in the castle or house on the hill that they go to.
Yeah,
it doesn't. it's like, well, it's just a woman in black. It doesn't. It doesn't. You can see black. Oh God, what was the advert? Where she's in?
Scottish Widow.
Yes, I mean, it feels like we've seen the Scottish Widow pumped onto the
Adverts,
tellies for a long time. A woman with a black cape, and you say a woman in black, it's like, oh, she's just a woman in black. It doesn't.
She's just delivering your pension.
Yeah,
isn't she?
it doesn't. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't evoke that, like, oh God, scary. Whereas, like you say, Ocean at the End of the Lane, where you've got them playing with darkness
and fantasy
and
as well,
fantasy, but pulling fantasy off in a way that unnerves you, and that can be applied to other productions. It's like the darkness is a very useful tool in theatre, because you can play with it, you can do things,
and you can make people jump.
You can make people jump, but I think we're just not as prepared. We're more prepared for things that are maybe an effect, or a small sort of theatrical effect, a flash, or a this or that. It doesn't have the same level of power that it used to. I think that's the difference now. When we saw Complicity do drive the power of the bones of the dead.
Yeah.
You didn't know what was happening, in the sense of it moved that fast that you, and I think that's probably what this lacked. The pace of it, it wasn't overwhelming your senses. So when it came to a jump scare, Woman in Black doesn't make you jump, whereas something that's overwhelming your senses and then hits you around the face with something else, that's when you jump, because you're thinking you believe in something else fast, and then something else comes in. And I think that's same with Ocean and the End of the Lane. That had that. Things were moving so quickly that your brain doesn't have time to compute the scary bit, because you're scared already, because it's already coming.
And I think also this started out by being slightly funny, or trying to be a little bit funny as well. So therefore, whilst that's a good way of setting the audience up for a great big smack.
It is, yeah.
Sometimes, like you say, with the pacing, it won't always pay off.
No.
I mean, especially, I suppose, for us, because we're used to seeing things like that, and we're expecting it. Like, any minute now, something's going to happen, because they've gone to the door, they've got a candle, they can't get in. Something's going to happen here. We're going to hear a noise, or the door's going to shut, slam, and it's going to wake everyone up.
And I think for me,
when that does happen, you just roll your eyes and think, I expected that. Obviously.
And I think when you understand the technical backstage style you understand the other side of theatre, certain things they have to work hard to make you react. And I think, that's where this, I feel, it feels dated now.
But like The Wicked Lady and like The Verdict, I think the kind of story, and Jekyll and Hyde,
yes,
as well, the kind of storytelling, I should say, is very much setting everything up and exploring it like a story. So therefore, if you're going to have that approach, you've sort of already bored the audience. And I'm saying that simply because you're telling, you're not showing.
Yeah, exactly.
When they try to show during the tell, they reenact things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to terrifying the audience, it's like you're getting the message secondhand.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're sort of half away from the terrifying aspect anyway. If that makes sense,
I know what you mean.
Do drop me a comment.
Yeah.
No, but it's
true. No, I know what you mean. I think it's that you're already being presented with you can almost see the ending before you even get there.
Yeah, quite predictable.
Yeah, and we'll
also
talk about the other things.
But it's also slightly annoying, the fact that you have to sit through a whole first act, 50 minutes, just for it to start getting hot.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really annoying.
But for me, it intrigues me with the writing, as in the writer. Have they looked at the way older productions were written and because a lot of older productions were written in a way that had to keep telling you the
Okay,
story all
well,
the way through almost.
Okay, so if we go to Inspector Calls, J.B.
Yes,
Priestley,
yeah.
right? I didn't realise that was just a one-act piece.
Yeah.
I thought when all that happened, it was an interval and we were coming back for more.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That was
No,
it.
yeah,
End
exactly. And that was quite similar in terms of the plot twist.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think of the plot twist in The Woman in Black?
But it's almost like the mousetrap, the plot twist in the mousetrap.
It's simple.
It's very
Obvious.
one-dimensional because it's...
Yeah, but do you remember what the plot twist was?
Yeah, it starts again and it's projected
It goes around in a circle.
Goes around. It's cyclical or whatever. But
do you want to say that again?
Cyclical.
Without mincing your words.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to mince.
Is it on repeat?
A mince pie. It is Christmas.
God. Right, go on then. Carry on. Back onto the. Just talk.
No, I think yeah, like you say, it is very. It's the predictability of that writing, that style, that it's quite interesting that it must have been for an attention span of older audiences, shall we say, in maybe 1800, 1900. I don't know. It might be interesting to look back that far and look whether they were very linear in the. It was almost like
this was written in the 80s.
That's yeah, but for me, as the writer took inspiration from those older writers. How it is a very linear.
Do you mean the classics?
Yeah, the classics. It's almost like that, where it's like we can't confuse the audience too much because it'll be too much for them to take in. We just need to have one twist rather than, and I think that shows quite a lot.
Well, I mean, obviously you don't want to have too many twists, otherwise it'll be a bit helter-skeltery.
I think when you can see the twist already. That's maybe what it's almost like.
So, in terms of going forward, then, do you think that this would be have an update? Could they modernise it?
I think they'd really need to look at it, and maybe, like we've said about Oceans at the End of the Lane, they need to, if they're going to do it, they'd need to really rework it.
Yeah, because I mean, anything is possible. But now I've just asked that question to you, and I've even answered this in this podcast. Now I'm kind of changing my mind, thinking maybe a new story, a different horror book is adapted to the stage with today's technology and today's what makes us scared and what makes us fearful, rather than what that was, and a different way of telling a story, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, moving on then, let's talk about the acting, Richard. We're here for the drama. So, what I postponed us talking about in the previous section was about the actors. And what I would say is, or what I noticed was, the reason why I feel that these actors made us... that these actors was compelling to watch was because of the differences in approach to acting. So you had Malcolm James playing the old Arthur Kipps, who was very controlled, but very classically trained. His voice was quite low and resonance and slow, but meticulous.
Yes,
and you paid attention to what he was doing and how he was acting. And this actor had been in the role a while. He's done this show before. He knew it.
You could tell with a lot of confidence and a lot of poise and just delivering.
Yeah, he knew he could take his time.
Yeah,
with
he didn't have to think about what he was saying, because he just knew it.
Yeah, and also the comedy moments, he knew which one would get a laugh anyway. And the actor, who was Mark Hawkins, he brought a completely different lot of energy here. He completely changed his tone, changed his acting style, changed his deliverance for everything he was doing, no matter what character he was playing.
Yeah, he was a shapeshifter. He was.
He really was, and he could stand in the middle of that stage and just captivate everyone.
Yeah,
everyone could just listen to what he was saying. And now you compare that to the Wicked Lady actors.
Forgettable.
very forgettable. You
Yeah.
know, you didn't really want to pay
Oh,
attention
my
to
phone's
them.
ringing. Oh, I'll walk over and answer it. It was just like,
Yeah, I mean, that was ridiculous. And if you want to hear our thoughts, go and listen to that episode.
yeah, definitely.
However, these actors were very much in their element. You know,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I couldn't say which one was the better actor because they both brought equal amounts of substance to the role. You know,
it was a two-handed production where you couldn't.
Yeah,
they had to bounce off each other to pull the production off. Really.
Yeah, I shouldn't have even said that. You know, looking for differences with them between which one was better or not. To be fair, but you know. Throughout this whole show, even though the writing wasn't necessarily thrilling me, I was engaged simply because of the technical aspects, which we'll talk later.
Yes, exactly.
And specifically the acting, because if it wasn't for the actors, if we'd got two pairs of actors just like Wicked Lady, I'd have wanted to leave yet again.
Yeah,
the same kind of play at the interval.
Yeah, because as a storytelling piece, they were engaging and you wanted to listen to what they were saying.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't glaze over, really.
No. And again, like I said on The Verdict, the second half picked up.
Yeah.
The second half picked up. Even Jekyll and Hyde,
the
second half picked up.
Yeah, because you knew what the scene had been set, you know.
Although I don't particularly want to go over old ground and analyse the old plays again. This... I just thought they did a fantastic job in every aspect of their performance. It was just a joy to watch.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're
here
for the drama.
Now, do you want to say anything on the performance here for the drama?
Are we in here for the drama now?
Well, we have been for a while.
Yeah, I know we have. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, physicality of... personally from Mark Hawkins was brilliant. I mean, he never stopped. I mean, he must have been worn out at the end of the production. He didn't need the gym, you know, running about and being almost. It's the reactions when he was falling over, when he was like unnerved. There was physical movements. He wasn't just, you know, when he was in the house and things like that. He put effort in, you know, to depict
That's
his character.
the least he could do, isn't it?
Exactly.
Put effort in.
Yeah, but I think it shows, doesn't it? I think, you know, like we said, yes, the overall production wasn't as scary as maybe we were led to believe, but his performance was, you couldn't fault his performance.
I think if you're doing a two-handed show or even a one-person show, all eyes are on you, so you can't necessarily hide behind other actors.
Because in a way, there was a lot of moments where he was in a monologue in some parts because they weren't always both on stage. There was times when he was delivering things all on his own, telling a story, running around and running around an empty house in like being knocked over or, you know, or reacting to a jump or a thing like that. And you felt like he was in those spaces. You didn't, you know, you felt like his reactions were brilliant, you know, and then yes, you know, you can see through some of the like not as scary bits, but actually his reactions. If we didn't have that, it wouldn't have even been worth watching in the second half. You know?
No, and also the character developments between all that, and especially like Arthur Kipps not being the actor, but then being the actor and retelling it.
Yeah,
and for it all to come full circle.
And then also there was moments where Snap and they're back in the room in the studio on the empty stage in the theatre.
Yes.
And then they went straight back into the other characters, and there was moments like that, you know, the light and shade of that was really, really good, you know.
And also to be able to go from one character that the audience has followed to another character with a different accent and a different way of being as well. Just flip that and then go back again. You know, that does take some doing as well.
Yeah, it really does.
You know,
to be convincing as well, and I think that's
absolutely.
the thing.
Is there anything else you would like to talk about in terms of the acting,
I don't
costume,
think
and props? Are we all done there?
so. I think we've touched on props in the sense of there wasn't many props apart from.
No.
I suppose one thing we didn't talk about is the props for the old house. I mean, the child's bedroom, the things in that child's bedroom looked like they should have done in the period that it was set in. You know, there was nothing out of place, and
Yeah, I think we
the
said Victoria
visuals were,
or
you know,
Edwardian,
yeah,
something like
the visuals were there, and you know, there was a lot of there's just a lot of Hessian hiding things and giving you it was, you know, the certain things weren't revealed till later on. And
Also, to say this was a two-hander, actually, it wasn't. There was a third actor.
there was, yes.
Yes. However, that particular role is neither here nor there, really.
No, and I think
No,
you almost, for me, the third actor, once you'd seen her, spoiler, her once, it became less exciting.
Yeah, because you knew there was a third person in the mix.
And it didn't become surprising then after that, you know.
No.
You knew that this woman in a black cape, like the Scottish Widow,
Yeah.
was there, and you didn't really. It didn't surprise you any more than once you've seen her. That's it, really.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she did what she needed to do, but there's not a lot more she could have done.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the Tech is this?
I thought that this show benefited a great deal with the whole lighting and sound effects going on, especially when it came to creating that depth of spookiness within both the child's bedroom scene and the rocking of the chair and the changing of the dolls, but also the third set where the characters are walking up the silhouetted staircase into the house as well, right at the very back as well.
It created depth on stage that was unexpected, and it increased the eeriness of it as well.
Because you had the light shining towards us, but from the back to illuminate one
Played
section.
a lot with shadows and
and then shining towards the gore, so you couldn't see anything at all.
Yeah. And they did a lot of, and it was little things like I mentioned earlier with the
candles.
single light and the candle light in the lantern and stuff like that, and then light coming through the doorway and things like that. That added more power to the actor's performance when he's going up to the doorways and stuff like that, and then and when doors are opening on the doors open on its own.
Oh yeah, with that door when that opened, was there a coloured light? Was it a red light? Or not?
Yeah.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the bit where everyone got spooked.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that it?
Yeah, and I think that was.
I mean, I appreciated it, but I expected it.
Yeah,
I knew
we
what
knew
was
what was
coming.
coming.
I don't know why.
No, and I think that was maybe, for me, that's where the aging of this production comes. It's like when you see a doorway, you know it's going to light up red, or you know it's going to be a dark spooky colour.
Or it's
you
going
know
to slam
what's
shut,
it's going to, you know it's going to be
handle's going to
the handle's going to turn, or there's going to be a rattling, or you know something's going to be happening.
Yeah.
But I mean, from looks and visual effects, it worked really well. As in, I suppose one of the things that maybe I found a little bit old-fashioned, shall I say, is using the gobo projected of a house on Hessian. It looked a bit old-fashioned in the sense of old theatre types rather than using a projection of something.
Wasn't it meant to have been a theatre thing because they were it was the actor?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you could say that.
Staged.
I'll take that.
Quotation marks.
A
staged event.
But could it have enhanced it if it was a projection or something?
Richard, it could have been like a model house coming down from the roof,
and it could have been a blimp.
It could have been a blimp. It could have been like a house come up from the floorboards as well.
Yeah, anything. But no, I think that the sound effects were done well. I suppose the things, certain elements of sound effects. I suppose when you know that speakers are hidden around the room, it doesn't. It makes you jump a little, but it doesn't make you jump like it maybe would have done. It doesn't feel exciting because it doesn't feel new anymore. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one. All I'll say is the whole technical aspect of the lighting and the sound was extremely slick. I don't think anything went wrong.
No.
Everything was adequate. But more than adequate, it assisted the acting.
Yeah, it did.
And the actors delivered the story.
Yeah, they did.
So it was a really strong production. And the production quality was really excellent.
Yeah, because you can almost be made a fool of by having a production like this that is a three-hander, shall we say.
Yeah.
And you can feel like is it more of a cash cow than it is actually a production. But I do feel like the actors acted. So that's the difference, isn't it?
I think everything played their... Every part, every aspect of this production played its part well. The only thing that didn't necessarily get me motivated in this was probably the storytelling,
yes.
and that comes back to the script.
Yeah,
it's just probably just not my kind of thing, and I think I've said that with a few of these productions now. Yeah.
And now it's time for our Rewind Rewatch.
Rewind Rewatch, Richard. What would you want to watch again from The Woman in Black?
Woman in Black. I think for me it was the moment where the stage was flooded with smoke and there was a scene where the actors acting being lost in a vast space, and there was that just typified how good an actor he was.
Which one? The actor.
The actor in
which actor?
The actor.
The actor playing the actor.
Yeah, I think
Mark
it was
Hawkins.
that Mark Hawkins, but it was that scene where he was lost in the fog, and it was all sort of breaking down, and I think that was the bit that for me I'd watch again.
Was it quite indicative to your life?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, lost in fog, searching for a dog. What about your rewatch?
I think I'd have to rewatch the ending when it started building up.
Yeah.
Not to say it wasn't forgettable, but I've forgotten it, so it's forgettable. So I will say it. And that's it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I've said, these kind of productions, which is them reenacting a story, doesn't necessarily work for me. Pride and Prejudice sort of worked for me.
Totally.
But this, no, a bit like Jekyll and Hyde, that was a good production, but I wouldn't rush to go and see it again. The Verdict, quite a good slow burn.
Once you know the result, you don't need to.
Yeah, I don't need to see this play again.
No.
Thank you very much, no.
Yeah, I've seen it once.
I won't say it again.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say,
Call this a show?
On a whole, Richard, The Woman in Black, would you like to summarise your experience and your final thoughts of this production?
I think I went in with an open mind, knowing what other people had said about it, but I did find it dated, but it was a well-told story, but it was a dated production.
Okay, I'm going to agree there. I felt that this one was going to be the one to watch. Because we'd seen The Wicked Lady, I thought this is the one that's going to be better. This is the one that's going to make me think that actually they can do a spooky play that would really,
knock you off your seat.
Knock me off my seat, really make my nipples stand on edge.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And all that kind of thing. But it was a little lackluster, but I love the production quality to it. I love the attention to detail. I love the direction. I love the acting. So it was a good show to see. It was just a good show to see. It was really well executed.
You know what I'd like to see?
What?
If Neil Gaiman rewrote The Woman in Black and then they created a production out of it. That's what I'd like to see.
Or the director who did that.
Yes.
Because I think it would have been down to the director.
It would be really interesting
The
if they had
artistic
freedom
director.
to change the production, because that's when it might have actually been.
Or go see another show.
Yeah.
Different show entirely.
Well, no, Ocean at the End of the Lane. Job done.
Oh, nasty. Scores then please, Richard, for The Woman in Black. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being a spooktacularly unnerving fright night, and 1 being an unimpressive bump in the night. What's it gonna be?
I'll give it 6 out of 10 because I just think it deserved some credit for the production quality.
Okay, I'm actually going to give it an 8 out of 10 because I thought that everything else, like I said, was really on point. It's a script. It's a script and the storyline for me that was a couple of points down. But yeah, it was alright. It's alright.
So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
Pleasant applause.
And I'm going to give it a pleasant applause as well. So there we are. That's our discussion of The Woman in Black. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
And opinions.
on many theatrical delights in future episodes.
If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of
Upstage Downstage.
Do you know what I was?
What?
I was lost in France.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Bonnie Tyler impression. Now, I'm doing all the talking here. You're not doing any talking. Oh, I can't hear you speak at all. You're not speaking at all, are you? You just gone mute.
I am, but I'm quite loud.
Oh, it's all about you
because
now,
it's
isn't
right
it?
at me. Yours is quite far away.
Yeah. Because you
Yours
keep...
is pointed over there.
Yeah, it'll pick up my voice.
Yeah, that's better now. It's right. It's working now. It's
Yeah,
right.
now you've turned me up.
Only a little bit.
Yeah. Stop turning me off like a light switch.
I'll put you in a box and crush it.
I felt like I already have. And adapted by Stephen Malatrat.
A lawyer obsessed with a curse that he believes has been cast over him and his family. A lawyer obsessed. Let me just forget that.
So Richard, what's it all about?
A lawyer obsessed with a curse that he believes has been cast over him and his family. No, it's because I'm pausing at the wrong place.
Don't pause at the wrong place.
A
Pause at the right
a lawyer obsessed with a curse that
Don't
he
do that
believes
again.
has. Yeah,
I spoke over you.
you did, didn't you? Engages a skeptical young actor to help. Engages a skeptical young actor to help him tell. Oh my god! I still can't get over the fact that Arthur Kipps. Sorry, it's the lead character in bloody Half a Sixpence, a musical. So every time I see Arthur, I know it's Arthur. Is it Archie or Arthur? It's Arthur. Yeah, it's Arthur. So I just keep thinking it's going to be like Michael Crawford. No, not Michael Crawford, but
Michael Caine?
no, Tommy Steele just coming out and doing. Because it's the same name and yeah. Anyway,
You've lost me.
go on.
No, you can drink when we record. Bloody chokes.
Oh god, go on.
That's it. Make a fool of yourself, but pause the recording.
Oh.